Oh, thanks, Marion. I was listening quite carefully to Brian's stuff, and it was really quite interesting, and it links to in a sense, to what I'm talking about. And on one of his slides, he talked about an ontological framework, and I'm wanting to talk about the top-level ontologies, which are a key part of this ontological framework, and particularly the top ontology work that we're doing as part of the development of the National Digital Twin. There are a number of my colleagues here, Matthew West, I think, Andy Mitchell, and I thought I saw David Leal. And if there are others, I apologize, I haven't noticed you. And if there are questions, I suggest that if you're better placed than me to answer them, particularly if they're difficult, please speak up. It's to give you some background for what we're doing on the National Digital Twin. It's we can look at it in terms of milestones, and in these kind of project milestones in the early stages tend to be reports, and there are two sets of reports. There's a set of report in 2018 that I think a number of the previous presenters have mentioned, at least one of them, the Gemini principles, and this sets out the overall framework. And at the same stage in 2018, there was a roadmap which was trying to give an overall structure or architecture of the tasks that needed to be done. And then this year, there have been two sets of publications. Earlier in the year was this pathway towards an information management framework that I think a number of people have mentioned. And this is drilling down to one level of detail on how the National Digital Twin is going to be delivered. And then in the last month or so, there have been two surveys, a survey of top-level ontologies and a survey of industry data models and reference data libraries. And that's more the focus for today. Upcoming, there is the TLO recommendation. Matthew West is the lead author on that. So if you've got any questions, please, if you put them into the chat, I'm sure Matthew will be happy to answer them. The pathway towards an information management framework identified three key elements, and it's really the first two that's of interest to us today. One was the foundation data model, and this is the structure that sets the overall semantics across the whole National Digital Twin, that ensures that there's a consistent sharing of data across the twins. The reference data library is one level down, but in a sense it's needed to support the foundation data model as an example of how the data should be structured, and also placing constraints on the data that's underneath. And of course, the foundation data model is built upon a top-level ontology. These are the two papers that came out. Here's the link. I'm sure Marion will share the various presentations with you, so you can get to it. I'm also reasonably sure that if you put any one of those keywords into Google, it'll come up. And this is at this stage, plus Matthew's report of the recommendation, is a step forward in terms of the information management framework, because it establishes a top-level framework. It establishes the overall semantics for the National Digital Twin. Andy Mitchell and I were the lead authors on this. There were a number of other people supporting us, including Matthew and David. And the first challenge we faced was trying to collect together all the top ontologies there were. There were a number of attempts at partial listings of ontologies, but there wasn't a full list. So I think we examined well over 100 ontologies, and eventually shortlisted 37. There are more ontologies coming in. We've got a parking lot with, I think, something like 10 in it, and we're expecting more. So if you review our report and find you've got a top ontology that isn't listed there, please get in touch and we'll add it to our list. The next challenge we faced was, it's all very well having these ontologies, but how do you assess them? How do you work out what their characteristics are, what they're good for, what they're bad for? And there's a small amount of literature out there, and one of the things that it focused on was the ontological choices which shape the architecture of the ontology. So we knew that we needed to look at the ontological choices, and there was a number of partial listings of these and set towards them, but there wasn't, if you like, an overall view of what these ontological choices were. So we had to develop a framework, which we call the framework assessment matrix, which shows the ontological choices, and we have 31 ontological choices. If you're looking at the spreadsheet there, the rows are top ontologies and the columns are ontological choices. I suspect if you look carefully at the names, I'm not sure how easy it is on your screen to see the names. I suspect they're pretty impenetrable, but they are explained in the survey. So if you want to find out more details, if you can, you need to go back to the survey and look at them there. The survey of industry data models serves a number of purposes. It's useful because it gives us content that's going to end up in the National Digital Twin. It also identifies the kind of data that needs to go into the National Digital Twin. But the two other, from a top ontology perspective, there are two other aspects that are important. Is that if the data is going to be integrated at a semantic level, it's important that it's all at a reasonably the right or the same level of ontological maturity. So the ontological framework assessment that we use for the top ontology can also be used for the reference data models and the data sets that need to come into the National Digital Twin. And you can identify at mapping time or at some stage, whatever stage, areas that would need to be ontological areas that need to be ontologically matured in order for them to be able to be integrated with the rest of the National Digital Twin. And there's another tool that we've been working on, which we've called evidence-based conceptual prototyping. And what this is, if you like, checking on which ontological commitments are actually used in the various reference data libraries. So the reference data libraries and the industry data models provide a viewpoint on what kind of data is going to be needed for the National Digital Twin. So if we look inside them and we see what ontological commitments they need to make in order to be able to semantically express their data, then we've got some idea of what ontological commitments the National Digital Twin needs to support. And the work on the right-hand side gives you an example of this. We've done some work on Uniclass. There are links to papers there, and the arrows point to the particular ontological requirements that we identified in the Uniclass documents. Okay.